Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of Lady Freethinker's Activist in Action interview series. I'm Mina Jackal, founder of Lady Freethinker. We're a nonprofit media organization dedicated to exposing and stopping suffering of animals, humans, and the planet. Today, we are excited to speak with Eduardo Goncalves, founder of Campaign to Ban Trophy Hunting. They're an organization working to end the killing of animals for sport, and they're based in the UK, working to pass and enforce laws against trophy hunting, toughen penalties for offenders, close legal loopholes, and ultimately achieve a ban on all trophy hunting worldwide. Eduardo, before we get started, did I miss anything, or would you like to share a bit more on your background?
Well, that's a great introduction. Thank you, Nina. I think the only thing I'd say is that trophy hunting is an issue that everyone feels very strongly about. We started in the UK for a very particular reason, not just because we're based here, but also because Britain effectively invented trophy hunting. It took trophy hunting to Africa and to Asia when it was a colonial empire. So it seems fitting that it should be Britain that signals a beginning to the end of this terrible, terrible sport. And it seems that we're on our way. There was an opinion poll recently that showed 86% of people in Britain want this sport, if you can call it that, banned once and for all. And we've got cross-party support from 8 different political parties in Britain. Most people don't even know that there are 8 different political parties. There are in Parliament. And also we have support from business leaders, from church leaders, sportsmen. Anyway, this is something that cuts right across the board. And we're hoping to be successful in our first objective, which is to ban the import of all hunting trophies into Britain.
Right, and that's fantastic and amazing that there's so much support for this right now. So for those who aren't familiar with your organization, can you explain why you decided to found the Campaign to Ban Trophy Hunting?
Yeah, I'll tell you actually how we started as well, because it was almost exactly a year ago. We found out that the government of Botswana in southern Africa was going to bring back elephant trophy hunting. Now, I don't think a lot of people know, and I certainly didn't know at the time, that elephant trophy hunting is still something that goes on around the world in southern African countries. And Botswana is really important because actually they banned trophy hunting back in 2014 because it was having a real impact on populations. Numbers were going down. And as a result of the ban, the numbers were stabilizing. In fact, some say they were even recovering and improving. And Botswana, it's a country about the size of Texas, but it has 1/3 of all African elephants living in the wild today. So it's incredibly important for the survival of the whole species. So the idea that they would be bringing back trophy hunting in this country, which is so important, just seemed completely nonsensical. So that was kind of where it started. And we started a campaign, we did petitions, we did protests and so on. But we weren't an organization at that time. We were just citizens. But as we looked more into the issue, it was apparent that there wasn't an organization, either in Britain or internationally, that was absolutely focused on the issue of trophy hunting and had a plan of how we actually get rid of it. So that was how we started, and we got together with public figures, with newspapers, with people from all walks of life, and set up this organization. And, it is a huge, huge issue, and I don't think some people realize just how big it is. In the last decade, 1.7 million animals were killed by trophy hunters.
Wow.
1.7 million, and something like 250,000 of those were endangered species. So this is having a tremendous impact on all sorts of animals that are facing a very real threat of extinction, such as lions. There's now no more than 20,000 African lions left. Cheetahs, there's no more than 7,000 cheetahs. Black rhinos, there's no more than 5,000. Yet it is still legal to trophy hunt all of those animals. It is legal to kill all of those animals just for fun, because that's what we're talking about. It isn't about killing an animal for food or for some kind of natural resource or whatever. It isn't about any kind of human necessity. This is about vanity. It's about people killing an animal because they enjoy it and because they want to boast about it. They want to post a selfie photo, and then they want to stick a body part of that animal above the fireplace. That is wrong in the 21st century. It's wrong completely, but it shouldn't be something that we do in an advanced civilization.
No, you're absolutely right, and that's incredible that your organization is exposing this and making a lot of progress in stopping it. It makes me hopeful to hear that you're working on it, and thankfully there is an organization like yours that is dedicated to just this. Um, so for people who don't know much about trophy hunting, can you explain what it is and why it's so cruel?
Yeah, well, people go and they go off to Africa or they go off to Canada. They also travel around the United States in order to find prize animals that can go into the records books of trophy hunting organizations like Safari Club International. So these are really prestigious for people who are part of the trophy hunting community. They want to get their record bear or their record lion or elephant or whatever into these books, and somehow that's seen as a great thing. But of course, that has a really big impact on the conservation status of the animal. It isn't just about the numbers of animals that they take, it's they're taking the biggest, the best, and the strongest. So when you talk about lions, for example, because they've been persecuted and particularly they've been shooting the biggest, the strongest males, then actually over the last century, the genetic pool of the lion species has shrunk by 15%. And there are now whole genetic strands that no longer exist in the lion species. And what that means is that lions are going to find it harder and harder to survive, just as we're going to be seeing many more threats to lions and other animals, whether it's through climate change, habitat degradation, whether it's loss of food resources, and so on and so forth. And the same is happening with other species. Elephants, for example, their tusks are getting shorter. Yeah, so people have actually been measuring the tusks of elephants over the last generation and found they're getting shorter and shorter. And what that means is, firstly, it's a sign of a weaker gene pool in the species. But of course, that is also going to make it harder for it to survive because tusks aren't there just for decorative purposes. They serve a really important function. For example, one of the functions they serve is to help an elephant find water in the dry season under dry riverbeds. Now, an elephant that has a shorter tusk is going to find it harder to do that. And of course, what we know is that in the next few years, there's going to be more droughts. They're going to be more ferocious. They're going to be more prolonged. So the entire species is threatened. But this is something that has been seen throughout all sorts of species that are the favorite animals of trophy hunters, whether it's buffalo, whether it's bighorn sheep, whether it's polar bears. Yes, that's right. Polar bears, which are critically endangered because of climate change and what's happening in the Arctic, they are still legally shot by hunters for no other reason than they find it amusing to do so. They kill these animals for pleasure. And unfortunately, they're driving these animals ever closer to the brink of extinction.
Wow. That's, I mean, that's really serious. And I think a lot of people are not aware of that. Polar bears, who would think that it's legal to trophy hunt a polar bear? I mean, that's appalling, really. So that has to stop. So thank you for sharing that information. And beyond your campaign, you've been involved in animal activism for many years. What are some of your most memorable or moving experiences?
Yeah, well, actually, there's a couple of things that come to mind. One is many years ago, I was involved with a campaign to save the Iberian lynx. Now, a lot of people won't have heard of this animal. It's a cousin of the bobcat, it's a cousin of the Canadian bobcat, and wait for it, it's the world's most endangered big cat. Yeah, it's the most endangered. We often think the most endangered species are in Africa or they're in Asia. No, this is actually the only big cat that's endemic to Europe, and it's the only cat that is in category 1, most critically endangered in the IUCN Red List. So, and the problem with the Iberian lynx is, as with many other species, it was heavily persecuted for many, many years. It was shot for its fur. It was considered to be vermin, and yet it was shot for sport as well. People wanted to have the trophy of this animal, and then problems happened with diseases and habitat loss and so on. And we got to a point where, at the beginning of the 20th century, there were 100,000 lynxes. By the beginning of the 21st, there was less than 100.
Wow.
Less than 100 individuals of an entire feline species. We were on the brink of seeing the first big cat extinction anywhere on Earth since prehistoric times, since the saber-toothed tiger disappeared in pre-biblical times. How extraordinary. Now, I was very fortunate in that I was able to get up close to Iberian lynxes. Let me tell you what happened. I worked very hard with other members of SOS Lynx, the organization that we set up, to try to get an emergency breeding program going. And it was very difficult because there was a lot of political, disagreements between different organizations and public authorities and so on. And so for years, they had breeding facilities, but no lynxes. And so we were trying to say, look, we're in the last legs of this species. We've got to have this insurance policy taken out in order to ensure it survives. And eventually, after a lot of media stories that we managed to get out, and we did documentaries and wrote books, in fact, our book, The Algarve Tiger, is still the only English language book ever written about the Iberian lynx. We managed to finally persuade the authorities to start this program. And I got this very excited call late one evening from the director of the breeding center saying, Eduardo, I have a lynx in my possession. And basically what happened, they found this 4-day-old cub, and it wasn't going to survive. It was the runt of the litter. It was very weak and very poorly. So the only way for it to survive was actually to bring it into captivity, but with the idea that it would then be used for the breeding program. And anyway, this guy called me. He said, I've got the lynx. I said, I'm getting in my car now. And I drove 10 hours all night long to go to him. And I arrived and I ran to his office, and I didn't even say, hello, good morning, how are you? I said, where is it? Where is it? I want to see it. And he goes, no, Eduardo, where are they? I said, what do you mean? He said, well, we've just had a second one. We've just found a second one. So these were the two founders of the breeding program called Sally and Aura, Saliega and Aura. Those are the two cubs. And I was very, very fortunate to be able to watch them recover, to grow up, to become adults, and to become mothers. And they became the founders of this incredible program, which today there's now 700 Iberian lynxes in the wild. There have been hundreds that have been released back into the wild. They are breeding in the wild again in places where they'd completely disappeared. They're having 3-4 cubs, and all of them are surviving, so they're healthy animals. This is one of the most successful stories in conservation there's been in recent years. So that was just something amazing to be proud of. The other one, I guess I'd tell is actually isn't about a wild animal. It's about a dog. And this is an issue very close to my heart, and I'm sure a lot of other people would sympathize with this. One of the worst scourges going on in the world today is dog fighting. It's illegal, but it's still going on. It's happening in the States, it's happening in Europe, it's happening in Asia, it's happening everywhere. When I was the CEO of an animal welfare organization in Britain, I launched an investigation into what was happening, and we actually managed to infiltrate a criminal syndicate that was involved in breeding dogs, in shipping them and trading them, and in fighting them. And in the midst of this, I came across an amazing dog who's called Cupcake. And she'd been a bait animal, actually. She'd been used as a bait animal by these disgusting people who'd stolen her, they'd mistreated her, and she had scars on her from cigarette burns, from cuts, she had broken teeth. And when she was eventually found and recovered by this remarkable woman, she was a broken dog. She was completely broken. But somehow, and with the help, as I say, of this amazing woman who'd also taken in a lot of other rescue dogs, they helped Cupcake to recover and to become a dog again, and a dog that loved to play, a dog that loved to be stroked and petted, a dog that just liked, actually, to be around humans and could trust humans again. Well, Cupcake was an extraordinary animal. So I took her to Parliament one day. We went to the Houses of Parliament. It was actually the first time she'd ever been in London. And you can imagine, it's noisy, it's smoky, you've got all the cars and the buses and everything. And we went to Parliament to demand that the government change the law on animal cruelty sentences, because at the time, the maximum jail term that you could get if you were caught organising dog fights or involved in any other kind of animal cruelty was just 6 months. Now, you could dump rubbish and get more time in jail for that. You could dump trash and get more time in jail. So we said to the Home Office Minister, Michael Gove, look, this is ridiculous. We've got to change the law. And we introduced Cupcake to a number of members of Parliament, and they all came out. They wanted to have their photo taken with her. And sure enough, a few months later, the government announced it was going to increase jail sentences for people who abuse and are cruel to animals, which was a huge success. And I have no doubt that the wonderful Cupcake played a huge part in that success. She certainly had a huge impact on me, and I know she had a huge impact on everyone she's ever met.
Oh, wow. Cupcake sounds like an amazing dog.
Yeah.
Helping change laws. An animal can do that. And obviously a lot of work on your part. So great job. I mean, not just fighting cruelty, but in actually saving animals' lives and making sure that the lynx population is thriving again. I mean, that's such important work. It's just incredible. So thank you for telling us about that. And for my last question, I'd love to know what's in store for you and the campaign to ban trophy hunting in the future, and what's the best way for people to follow your work?
Yeah, well, thanks for asking that. We're just about to accomplish our first success, if you like, which is the banning of trophy imports into Britain, and that was always our first goal because Britain is still a major influencer on the world stage when it comes to matters of conservation and animal welfare. So it's been really important for us to focus on that and get that. But now that we're nearly there, we're gearing up for phase two, and phase two is we need to close the loophole in international law, which at the moment allows trophy hunters to shoot even the most endangered wildlife on Earth. So you have, for example, CITES, the wildlife trade law, which we think is there to protect animals. Well, it might stop poachers, for example, from shooting an animal, but actually trophy hunters, they're allowed to shoot elephants, they're allowed to shoot lions, they're allowed to shoot leopards, they're allowed to shoot all sorts of animals, many of which are classed as endangered or critically endangered or even extinct in the wild in some cases. And you can go to a private ranch and shoot those animals to get the ultimate prize, of an animal that's so rare it technically doesn't exist anymore. So we've got to close that loophole. It's a stupid exemption in law. No, it doesn't make any sense. And we're going to have a bigger chance of being able to save endangered wildlife if we correct the law and the problems that are with it at the moment. Ultimately, our goal is to get an international treaty which abolishes trophy hunting. Trophy hunting is one of those great social moral evils of our time. It's like apartheid, it's like slavery. It's something that we cannot call ourselves an evolved species if we still allow this to go on, where we're killing our fellow creatures on Earth just because some people enjoy it and because they're rich enough to be able to do it. It is just fundamentally wrong. And so we're going to abolish it. That's our goal. We're already talking to politicians from a number of countries as well as NGOs, and we're getting together to push this law forward and get rid of this terrible, evil sport and assign it to the dustbin of history, which is the only place it belongs. So if you want to be part of our movement, if you want to follow us and support us, what I suggest to people is have a look at our website, bantrophyhunting.org. You can sign up to our newsletter. We'll keep you up to date with what we're doing, but also there's all sorts of campaigns going on all the time where we're trying to shut down, for example, hunting exhibitions, where we're trying to get shipping companies to stop shipping hunting trophies. So there's all sorts of ways that you can help. It's clear that our campaigns are winning. We managed to shut down the biggest shooting exhibition in Britain just a few weeks ago because hundreds of thousands of people signed our petition and local politicians agreed with us. So if you fight, you can win. That's the message I give out. And, so please join us. This is a really important fight. And, your support is really, really welcomed.
Well, thank you. I love that message. If you fight, you can win, because we do have the power to change the things that are wrong and that are evil, and you're doing it. So, Eduardo, thank you so much for everything you're doing and for sharing your time with us today. We love your work and look forward to continuing to follow your journey. And for those watching, thank you for checking out the latest episode of Lady Freethinker's Activist in Action series. And be sure to check out our other videos and stay tuned for future episodes. To learn more about our organization, please visit ladyfreethinker.org, or you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, at Twitter, at Lady Freethinker. Thanks for watching.